What's up, everybody? This is the Grand Line Gazette, where we talk about One Piece every damn day. I am Corey. We got Kev here. Kev, how you feeling today?
Feeling good. Chapter 1132 really got me pumped up. I'm excited for the new destination that we're at. Elbath is tight.
Yeah, it like when you're watching the anime and you finally get the map of the area, you're like,
Hmm.
finally, I know where we're at. It's got like that feeling, you know what I mean? And we're
Oh
going to be
yeah.
talking about it. Like I said before, my name's Corey. That is Kev. This is the Grand Line Gazette, where we talk about One Piece damn near every damn day, whether it's a chapter review, manga review, character breakdown, faction
Oh.
breakdown. We used to do Devil
Oh.
Fruit reviews, but I mean, we might bring that back. Who knows? Um,
Hmm.
Today, we're talking about what we saw in chapter 1132. So, slight spoilers ahead. Um, Damn. Hey, check out in that picture behind. On the very bottom of that picture, that's a giant next to that tree, or next to that house. On the bottom left, that's a giant like
Yep.
sweeping next to that house. That's the scale of it. Speaking
Yeah.
of scale, we got to see the landscape portraits of a lot of places. The background of this podcast being one of them. The other one being when Dory and Bragi were showing the Straw Hats the Painter Stones, and they were going on to the rainbow. So we got to see how big the underworld was. We got to kind of see how big like the Sun World was, at least a faction of it, a
Sure.
fraction of it. Um, we also got to see the sword that's impaling Adam, the father tree, um,
Yes.
which raised the question for me at least. Again, who put the sword there? Where did that sword come from? We've seen that sword a couple of times in the last couple of chapters. I got some questions. We're going to talk about it. So before I get started on my part, Kev,
What's up?
any thoughts on the Adam tree, the scaling, where it came from, anything like that?
It's huge. It begs the question what the Eve tree kind of looks like if it was you know, unleashed. I think it like grows within the red line. So if the Atom tree is so big, I'd really be excited to see what the Eve tree looks like if it was like out and about instead of like all closed in. But man, dude, is Elbath just huge? If you just walk onto one piece of that, like the island, like the mountains are huge compared to humans, and the mountains look tiny compared to the tree. So we're in for a huge adventure here, and I'm excited.
Yeah. Um, it's kind of just like, and I wonder what the scaling is. You know what I mean? It's got to be a literal and a figurative scaling. Like on Egghead, it just ramped up. You know what I mean? And maybe this is what it's ramping up to. Like this is the new scale of things. Like everything is going to be way larger than life.
Oh yeah.
Um, the size of giants. So I'm assuming these are giants that we're seeing, like the townspeople near these trees and everything like that, because those are the residents of Elbaph, giants. So these are made to size and to scope for them. We also have giants who are larger than the average giant. We also have ancient giants who are larger than them. We have San Juan Wolf, who is larger than an ancient giant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, and we also have Loki, who's tied up to the tree right there in the underworld.
Yes.
So all these are
Correct.
giants, all these are different scales, but none of these giants could wield that sword. You know what I mean? So
Very
this has
true.
to either be from somebody from an ancient time, larger than Emmett, larger than like San Juan, larger than everybody, and just since them ancient times, they've just been scaling down. Or my second theory, my personal theory, is that Sun God Nika, in the very beginning, when there was a war here, they were fighting there. They did Luffy's Gear Third get extra large. We always see him with the sword. We always see him with the spear. And we know this one fact about awakened devil fruits. The abilities do not fade. The effects on the surroundings and the environment do not fade when you are in awakened status. So if he
Very true.
grew with the sword, or they grew with the sword, and then lost the sword or impaled it into the tree or stabbed somebody, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then let go of the sword's not shrinking down with them. The sword's just going to stay as it is. So that's my personal theory on that.
I'm 100% right there with you. We've seen if you give, I mean, let's just say Joy Boy, for example. Joy Boy was part of the ancient kingdom. He was the first ever pirate, quote unquote. We don't know much about that yet, but he could have been a giant himself or a buccaneer. And if you take a buccaneer and give him Luffy's powers, Luffy turned into a giant. Now, I don't know if Luffy was ever big enough to wield the sword either, but if you just kind of extrapolate the size and 200xing the original size, if you get somebody who has the Nika fruit but is also a giant, we get a similar concept of San Juan Wolf getting the giant fruit, where it's like now we finally have somebody that may fit the stature requirements to wield this sword. And we've seen it with Punk Hazard. Once you awaken it, the environment stays the same. And once this is stabbed into the ground, no one else is going to be able to remove it. I mean, nobody's big enough to even get it out. So
My
it's
question
it's
is it
there.
stabbed into the ground or is it stabbed into the tree? And if it's stabbed into the tree, I know the tree's got to be hollow in parts because they got to be able to live
Ooh,
in it. They have to have temples in it. I mean, if they're worshiping in it, they're carving it out, and there's stuff going on in the tree. So who's to
I
say where it
haven't even
ends at? They
thought
don't
about
like take
that.
the metal or something.
What if they're inside the tree? Bro, that's crazy. I just thought like everything in me just started never thinking about that idea.
Yeah.
I
Well, you got
because
to look
like
at it like a full biome. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
100%. Wow. Okay. So now I'm thinking like dwarves used to like in Lord of the Rings would like live inside like these huge mountains.
Keebler
So you could
elves.
have yeah, so you could literally just have like all of these. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
This whole
Smurfs,
entire thing
Keebler elves, all that. Like,
that's bro, Elbaph is tight. I'm so excited. I hope you're right. I
yeah,
hope you're right. I'm right there with you.
and that would be
All
like a
right.
more dependent on like wood and stuff like that. Like, these people got to be from different parts of Elbaph. Like, even as far as like the new giant warrior pirates, in the
Sure.
latest chapter, we obviously have like a friction between all of them. Like, they all do
Hmm.
not see eye to eye, as a whole, I guess. But yeah, that's my theory. My theory is that Nika or Joy Boy they grew large enough to stab the sword through. Maybe that's when they died. Maybe their opponent got away because we've seen like Emu's powers become like gelatinous, like oozy, like maybe misty. We are not too sure what to describe it as right now. But so if you got impaled, like you could just kind of, you know, Logia it away. You're a Logia type or something. Um, but I do like the idea of that sword being planted there, and possibly
Hmm.
that is when Nika died, and
Sure.
that's when the origin of passing down the devil fruit came. But who's to say that original devil fruit was the Nika devil fruit?
I
This
like
is
it.
going to be a
I
this
like
is this is going to be a very very interesting flashback because we're going to see it's like what happened when Nika died. What were the, because it's like and who was around to see Nika fight? You know what I mean? Because you can see a giant. You know what I mean? And so you're a
Mhm.
giant. You think a giant among giants is like that's the god, and then anything after is the power. You know what I mean? So it's all perspective too. Like if you only saw fire being the power, I could get a fire devil fruit and be like, look, this is a very powerful fire devil fruit we've known about.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to use instead, and we're going to protect this one.
I like that. I'm until further notice. That is kind of what I'm rocking with. I like that. I like that quite a bit. So now that we've kind of deep dove into Elbaph specifically, the giants I feel like have to all come from here in a sense, or at least this area. They, over hundreds of years, they could obviously scatter and develop. Saul is a great example of that. But I want to talk about specifically a race of giants, the Oni giants, that we have very little info on. And so I'm curious to see your thoughts.
I
What
wonder.
do you, what do you,
I wonder because it's like I wonder how. I mean, the One Piece world is such like a vast world that you can make this into like a Hollow Earth kind
Mhm.
of thing. I mean that I've had ideas of like Hollow Earth stuff in like if we found out in the One Piece world like yeah, there's also like golems and trolls and giants that live in the like Earth. You wouldn't really be surprised. You'd just be like, oh, that's just not what we're talking about right now. They're
Sure.
like, oh yeah, when they got flooded, when the whole world got flooded, like they went inward. So, I think Oni Giants could be a faction that came from within the Earth,
Okay.
or they were a faction that lived somewhere near the Red Line, because it's like you have some similar. I don't know. It's the horns, the red skin, like I don't know.
For those
Something's
of
there.
for those of you who don't know, it's a pretty interesting lineage though too, because we don't know the history of them, but we have only had four confirmed like living characters, and then a fifth, just kind of like the skull was there, so we know of a fifth. But we have Ors, who was from Thriller Bark, Ors Junior, who was the one that made a straw hat for. Yes, thank you. Kaido, and then Yamato. What an interesting family tree we have here. We have four of the strongest characters in One Piece, and we have no information about their lineage. It's interesting. They all and their their distance from Elbaph can't be dismissed either, because if in any type of historical migration, you just migrate to wherever's closest. So if there was a war on Elbaph and the Oni Giants were just didn't want to be a part of it, they would find refuge in nearby islands as well, like Wano. So I mean, I feel like that's just pretty there. I just don't know how you get from Oars to Kaido. That one's
Yeah,
little. It's a
and
jump.
it's like, are
So
you guys just on the Grand Line? You know what I mean? They are
mhm,
very close to that. It's got to be like a location based because Thriller Bark was where we saw one of them, right?
mhm,
Oars
mhm.
Jr. could have been found anywhere. And then this one is like Thriller Bark was pretty close to the end of the Grand Line on that part. You know what I mean? Like that was the
Sure.
next stop. Um, Going to our, we have a theory about Thriller Bark being part of
Mm.
Marijwa. So check out
Nope.
that
God.
video.
Nope. God Valley.
God Valley. My bad. My bad.
Yes.
Thriller
Nope. You're
Bark
good.
being
You're
part
good.
of God Valley. We have a video on
Yes.
that. Very interesting. If I remember, I will link it above right
Yes.
now. Probably won't. Go find it. Um, but Thriller Bark, very close to the Grand or the Red Line. Wano, kind of close to the red. I don't know. It's kind of at the end.
Yeah. No,
It's
I
in the
agree.
last
You're
75%
close.
of this part of the Grand Line. So I mean, you're
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
close to the Red Line. Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's and then the only like verifiable like history that we can get is from Vegapunk's research on Kaido. Because he also did research on Kaido, most likely when Kaido was captured. But
Yeah, he was sold off. Yeah. So Kaido was special enough for the government to purchase him. So that can't be unsaid. Like
but then
it's
it's
like,
like, what
hey,
about Yamato's mom? Like we don't know
agree,
what she is and like how
agree.
she met, where they were, like any of these things, like a location thing that they met could help. Be like, okay, so they're located in this part. This is what happened. Like we got nothing, man. Then we got those Yeti cool bros that are also freakishly tall.
Hmm.
So it's like I don't know. Uh,
And and for to kind of go out, just to remember, Onigashima is the new name. It used to be named Ryugama Gashima, which is Dragon Island instead of Oni Island. So the Oni are interesting. I can't wait to learn more about them because we're following Yamato right now in the cover arc. So she is gonna become important at some point, I would imagine. And I don't think Kaido's dead. I wouldn't say he's dead specifically. So I think have a place still to come for sure.
a lot of different people use like the horns too. Like Caesar kind of wears horns. There were those Oni demons that were Luffy fought. Remember on episode 1000 where Luffy like everybody was doing like the speed blitz and like right after they like saved Mononosuke.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
Okay.
like they're there. Caesar wears horns sometimes. Gecko Moria's like flame hair goes into horns. Page One and Ulti have horns. Shit, the Vikings, like the people of Elbaph, wear helmets with horns. Like this has to come from something. So this is like a two-folder video. It's like where did that sword come from, and what's going on with the ancient giants, and when are we going to hear more about them? So I don't know. That is very very interesting to think about. Any last thoughts before we go?
I yeah. I mean, we had to have like a primordial giant per se, and then these are all maybe just examples of just I hate to use the word crossbreeding, but just over time you just develop relationships with other types of people, and eventually you may branch off and have a giant with something else and have an oni. It's like over time you just have relationships, and
And
you
then it
just
could be the fishman thing where it's like,
yeah,
or you could just look like
exactly,
anything at all. And to
exactly.
your
And
point,
we
that's all. That's also my thing about Big Mom not being an experiment. Is like, I guess you're just one of them freaks that we heard about because it was right after Fishman Island where they were talking about it.
Yeah.
That's a different. I cut
It,
off your point. My bad.
no, 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 no. You're all good. No, I do like that for sure. It's just interesting. I don't know if Buccaneers are very special with their lineage and their blood type and all that stuff because they make the seraphim. But I don't know. I think that all these different types of giants are just come from one specific giant, and then just over thousands of years, you just get different types of people, and that's cool. But they're all being hunted and shit.
What
Maybe
if
they're all welcome back on Elbaph.
What if this
I'd
was
like
an
that.
anime made in like 2013 and like the sword that's impaled into Elbaph, like it's got blood on it from like the demon that giant that they were
Oh my
fighting,
goodness.
and people like normal people drank the blood, and then that's when they started becoming giants.
That's crazy. I mean, dude,
That's
we
Tokyo
we
Ghoul
have to,
years.
yeah, we have to want to. I always go back to Punk Hazard and the giant experiment on kids. We want to achieve giants for some reason. The government wants to achieve that outcome. We're going to find out why that is in Elbaph, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, like Big Mom wanted it for her reasons, but it's like she ain't the end all be all for
Yeah.
government involved experimentation. Like you're the fall guy. But what's the real plan? What do you guys think? Let us know what the plan is with the giant experimentation, how you guys feel about the ancient giants. Who do you guys think wielded the sword that is now impaling the Atom Tree? These are all thoughts that we have that we are hoping you guys have as well that you can help explain for us. So write down a comment, share, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, all the podcast stuff, and we will see y'all next time.
Peace.